is on solving one-step equations, specifically ones that involve multiplication and division. If you're looking for a lesson on solving one-step equations with addition and subtraction, then there should be a link in the upper right-hand corner and you can go to my lesson on that. So step one is to locate the variable. Sometimes the variable's on the left side, sometimes it's on the right side. You should be focused on whichever side of the equal sign the variable is on. Step two is to get the variable by itself or to get it alone. And we do this using opposite operations. So in other words, you're going to do the opposite of what you see. So if you see multiplication, you're going to do division. If you see division, then you're going to do multiplication. Okay, it's as simple as that. So let's look at some examples. So first thing you notice here is I have one side, I have a work side, on the other side it says check. So the nice thing with equations is that you can check your work to see if you got the right answer. Now for my students, I make them show their work exactly the way that I'm going to teach this, because yes, you may be able to figure this out in your head, but when you get into equations with more steps, if you don't learn these basic steps, you're going to have a very difficult time doing multi-step equations. This is the building blocks for going into algebra and being able to do harder equations. So it's really important that you don't do these in your head and that you learn the proper way to show your work. If you learn these steps correctly in the beginning, it'll make your life so much easier when you get into multi-step equations. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line through the equal sign here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can do anything I want to this equation and not change its value as long as I do the same thing to both sides. I shouldn't say not change its value. I should say to keep it true. So this says the left side to equal to the right side. That will always be true as long as I do the same thing to both sides of the equation. So step one, locate the variable. Here it is on the left side, so that's where my attention is. Step two is to get this x by itself. I want to find out what its value is. So this says 2 times some number is equal to negative 12. And the whole point of this is to figure out what is that number. 2 times what equals negative 12. And again, be careful. I know that you can do that in your head without doing any of this work I'm showing, but I can't tell you how important it is that you learn these steps to show your work. It's going to make your life so much easier in the future. And you are going to be asked to solve harder equations further on. Okay, so just quick review. A number next to a variable means multiply. So this means 2 times x. So I'm going to do the opposite of that, and I'm going to divide by 2. Well, in elementary school, you showed division by doing this. In middle school and high school, we don't write division like that. We write it like this. And you might say, well, that's a fraction. That's a terrible 2 right there. Let's do this again. 2 over 2. And you might say, well, that's a fraction. And you're correct, it is a fraction. But a fraction is just really another way of showing division. So 2 over 2 is the same thing as 2 divided by 2. So instead of writing divide by 2, divide by 2, I'm going to write it like this. Okay, so that's the same thing as if I was to write the division symbol in a 2. We just like in algebra to show it as a fraction. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 1x is the same thing as just x. So that got the x alone or by itself. Again, the whole point here is to get the x by itself so I can find out what it's equal to. I saw multiplication, I did division. Negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Remember, the rules for multiplying and dividing are if they have different signs, the answer is negative. If they have the same signs, the answer is positive. So I can check this to see if this is right. I'll have to here and plug in negative 6 for x. And what I'm looking for is 2 times negative 6 equal to negative 12? Well, if you put that in your calculator, you'll get negative 12. And so, yes, it is equal to negative 12. So I know that I got the correct answer. And so the answer is that x is equal to negative 6. If you got lost at any point on there, just back it up and watch this again. So here's another one. All right, so locate the variable. It's on the right side this time. All right, so that's where I should be focused. Now, this is where my students freak out and they say, oh, I hate fractions. I can't stand them. Well, this isn't really a fraction. Remember, this is just a way of showing division. So x over -4 is the same thing as x divided by -4. We just don't write it this way. We write it like a fraction. Now keep in mind, here's another thing that you might see. This negative sign might be in the middle here between them, or it might be on the x. It doesn't matter where the negative sign is. So if you have a problem where they have the negative sign on the x, just move it down to the 4, okay? Now I want to get rid of this -4. So I see division, so I'm going to do multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by -4. Why -4? Because I want to use what I see. I see x divided by -4. So I'm going to do the opposite of what I see, the opposite operation, and I'm going to do times -4. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this by -4. Let's multiply this side by -4. Over here, you end up with -4 over -4. So really, I could put a 1 under this, right? And so these would cross cancel each other and just make 1. So I got the x by itself. And over here, I have -4 times -12. A negative times a negative is a positive, so that's 48. Don't leave your answer like this. Just by convention, we would rather you write it as x equals 48 instead of saying 48 equals x. Okay, so I solved division. I solved divided by -4, so I multiplied both sides by -4. And again, I can do this. So in your calculator, put 48 divided by -4 and see if you get -12. And you should. And so that tells you that you got the correct answer. So honestly, you should never miss an equation problem, solving equations, without knowing that you missed it, because you can always check it. All right, so let's look at one more here. This is -8 equals -4 times x. Again, I'm focused on the right side of the equation. So -4 times x, that's multiplication. So that means I want division. Now, again, I want to use the opposite operation, but I don't want to change this number. This is a -4 times x. So instead of multiplying by -4, I want to divide by -4. If this was a +4, I would divide by a +4. So that's one of the things that a lot of times my students get tripped up on. So I'm going to divide both sides by -4. -4 divided by -4 is +1. And then 1x is the same thing as just x, so that got me the x by itself. And then -8 divided by -4 is +2. And flip this around, so x equals 2 is my answer. And I can check that. So over here, I'm going to do -4 times 2. If you put that in your calculator, you should get -8, which tells me that I got the correct answer. All right, I didn't have one on here, but let's do one more as I look at to do one more of the division ones. So let's say I have x over, so let's do this. I'll put this x over -x over 2 equals -8. Okay, so I see division, so I want to do multiplication. Now, I told you this negative sign could be, well, let me just move the negative sign. Let's try it. There we go. This negative sign could be here, it could be here, or it could be here. So a lot of times students get confused when it's here. So just move it down here if they put it on the variable up there. It means the same thing. So -x divided by +2 is the same thing as +x divided by -2. The point is that they have different signs. So I see x divided by -2. So that means I'm going to multiply both sides by -2. So these will cancel each other out. Gets the x by itself. And then negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. And so again, check this. X over negative 2 equals negative 8. So I plug in 6 for x, and then 16 divided by negative 2. If I put that in the calculator, you get negative 8. So you know you got the right answer. All right. So I hope you found this useful. If you did, then give it a like and give me a subscribe. And until next time.